Imagine waking up in the morning not knowing if your home is still standing. You hear distant explosions but can't tell if they're far away or already close. You step outside to get some water, and the street becomes a trap. Children play among the ruins, learning fear instead of laughter. Every day here is a struggle for the simplest things: for bread, for a safe place for your family, for a chance to survive. And you realize, today could be your last day and you don't even know why. I open the door to my room and carefully peek inside. Dust covers the floor, shards of furniture lie scattered in chaos, and cracks on the walls look fresh, probably from last night's shelling. Every house here is like a lottery, and no one knows whether it will still stand after the next explosion. Only the morning inspection gives an answer. Will I feel the floor beneath my feet for another day, or will I have to hide among the ruins again? My small apartment in the city's center looks desolate. The ceiling sags. Sometimes I hear plaster crumble with a crack, and the floor is strewn with broken furniture, shattered shelves, and empty boxes that were once part of my life. Everything I had has now turned into a pile of debris, and yet I remain here because this is my home. Here, among the ruins, I feel a strange kind of calm. It's my little fortress, though damaged and fragile. I slowly make my way to the kitchen, stepping carefully over the debris. The fridge is empty, with only a few cans of food left on the shelf, next to a bottle of water that's been there since last week. Every little thing becomes invaluable. I open a can and inhale the metallic, salty smell, thinking this will be my lunch today. The water in the bottle looks cloudy, but there's no alternative. Every sip is a risk, yet I drink because survival is more important than fear. I look out the window at the street. Dull explosions echo from afar, and drones sometimes fly by, reminding me that the outside world is just as dangerous as inside the apartment. I remember how, just a year ago, this room was full of laughter and light. Now, it has become a witness to constant fear and caution. I cling to every ordinary moment, to the little things that once seemed mundane. Now they are worth more than gold. I sit on the edge of the broken sofa and take a deep breath of dust that hasn't settled yet. I look at the walls, the debris, the empty shelves, and feel a strange mixture of helplessness and determination. This is my life, and though it has become chaotic and dangerous, I am still here. I can still breathe, I can still move, I can still fight, even when the world around me is destroyed. The city wakes up slowly. Ruins and destroyed buildings create a strange, quiet labyrinth for those trying to survive. The streets are empty, with only occasional people cautiously moving among the debris, constantly watching their surroundings. Every step here demands attention. Even the slightest sound can draw unwanted notice. The sky above the city is gray, covered with dust and smoke. The sun barely pierces through the haze, casting long shadows on the ruined facades. Shadows of buildings and rubble give the impression that the city itself is watching those who dare to walk its streets. Smoke from fires and burning debris mingles with the cold morning air, and even breathing feels heavy. The residents of this district try to live despite everything. They check the buildings that are still standing, carefully carry what's left of their belongings, and sort through the food that survived the night's shelling. Every day is both planning and survival, deciding what to eat, where to get water, how to keep children safe, and where to go if a building becomes unsafe. The line for water is one of the few constant sights in the city. People stand silently, holding jerrycans, waiting for enough to be shared among everyone. Around them, only the whispers of children and the soft cries of a mother trying to calm her child can be heard. There is no room for noise here. Even laughter has become a rare and strange sound. Children play among the rubble, building their little forts from the remains of old furniture, and at the same time learning the caution they never knew before. Danger lingers in the streets. Every sound is a signal. A drone flies over the rooftops. A distant explosion or the crash of falling debris forces people to press against walls. The road becomes a test, and even a simple trip to a store or market turns into a risky journey. The streets remain empty, with only a few cautious passers-by stepping carefully on the rubble, trying to avoid attention and danger. Despite everything, Residents try to maintain familiar routines. Families cook over open fires or small stoves, speak quietly, and children try to laugh even among the ruins. These small acts are the last resistance against the destructive chaos surrounding the city. Every sip of water, every piece of bread, every minute of peaceful sleep, it's a small victory. Schools, if they are still functioning, often operate in temporary spaces or outdoors. Teachers explain lessons to children sitting on the floor or on stone rubble, while the echoes of war can still be heard around them. For children, learning has become a luxury, for many a rare chance to experience normalcy. Every lesson is an opportunity to preserve a piece of childhood in a world where it is constantly being destroyed. Work for adults is no longer about earning money. It is about survival. People gather leftover materials, repair buildings, deliver supplies, help neighbors. These actions may seem simple, but every step on the street is a balance between necessity and risk. Even small tasks become heroic acts. Evening brings a sense of emptiness. The city loses the last rays of the sun, and darkness covers the ruins. The light of street lamps, if they still work, casts long shadows on the empty roads. People return home, carefully bringing in the remaining food, preparing the evening meal, trying to preserve warmth and safety for their families. Children fall asleep exhausted, but even in sleep, fear is never far away. In the rooms that remain intact, families gather together, share stories, and try to support one another. These moments of warmth and calm in a chaotic world become symbols of hope. Even among the ruins, people continue to live, to fight, and to dream, small steps at a time, but they still exist. The city lives in a state of semi-ruin. Streets where children once played and cafes once stood are now littered with building debris, empty cans, and old boxes. Burnt bicycles, shattered shop windows, and completely damaged cars line the sidewalks. Local residents move slowly, carefully stepping over rubble and metal scraps. Every sound echoes danger. A distant explosion, the crack of glass, the creak of a collapsing beam, forcing people to press against walls and wait for silence to return. Many buildings have only walls and fragments of roofs remaining. A few apartments are still habitable. Old furniture remains, along with some bedding, canned food, and water. In these spaces, people spend time with their families, carefully cooking on small gas stoves or improvised fires. The air smells of smoke, hot bread, and dust. Every sip of water and every piece of food is the result of careful planning and risk, as the few remaining shops and water sources can be dangerous. Waiting in line for water is a constant test of patience. People stand with jerrycans, plastic bottles, and pots, silently watching one another. Parents hold their children's hands to prevent them from running into dangerous streets. Children play among the rubble, building little fortresses from broken furniture or pieces of plywood left from the destruction. Their shouts and laughter sound strange against the ruined facades, but it's their only chance to preserve a sense of childhood. Shops rarely open. Shelves are empty, and the remaining goods are quickly taken. Most often, there is only bread, some canned food, bottles of water, and basic supplies. People carefully choose what to buy, calculating for the next few days. Often, they have to trade goods with neighbors. Sometimes a neighbor gives a bag of grain for a bottle of water or a can of food. These small acts reflect solidarity and force survival. Danger is always present. Drones patrol the skies. Distant explosions remind everyone that the war is not over. People walk carefully through the streets, holding children and bags. A few young men help the elderly, carrying heavy bags over the rubble. Every step on the road is a balance between duty and fear. Underfoot lie bricks, broken glass, and ruined cars, while in the distance, smoke rises from buildings that were once the city's center of life. Rebuilding is done by the residents themselves. People collect pieces of wood and metal to make temporary coverings, repair roofs from leftover shingles, and clear debris to create even minimal safety. Even simple repairs become acts of heroism, as every task outside carries potential danger. Children who stay at home try to learn if schools are still functioning in the city. Teachers organize lessons outdoors, in semi-ruined classrooms, or even in dark rooms. On small boards and scraps of paper, children write letters and numbers, while the rumble of bombs and gunfire can be heard outside. For them, education is the only way to maintain a connection with the world that existed before the war. Morning, 5:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. 5:30 a.m. Waking up. I wake up before feeling the sun. There is silence all around, but it is deceptive. Every rustle or crack in the walls feels like a threat. I carefully open my eyes and look at the cracks in the ceiling. They seem larger than yesterday. Dust on the floor glimmers in the faint light pushing through the dirty windows. I listen to the distant rumble of explosions and quietly check whether the building is still standing, whether anything has collapsed overnight. My heart is beating fast, but I try to breathe calmly because any noise right now could be dangerous. 6 a.m. Morning hygiene. Water is limited, so I use only a few sips to wash the dust from my face and hands. It's cold and sometimes looks dirty, but there is no other choice. The mirror is covered with a layer of dust, and I see my face, exhausted, with dark circles under my eyes. Every movement requires caution, because any sound can draw attention. I touch the walls, checking if they're holding, if anything has fallen from the roof. 6:30 a.m. Breakfast. On a small gas burner, I heat canned food and dry bread. The food is simple, but it gives strength. I sit on the edge of the sofa, look at the broken furniture, and remember how the kitchen once was full of smells, fresh bread, fried vegetables. Every sip of water now feels priceless. Even a simple piece of bread here feels like a reward for survival. 7 a.m. Planning the day. I check my bag, a water canister, leftover bread, a few cans of food, medicine, documents. Thoughts swirl in my head. Where to go today? To the shop? To work? Or stay home? The streets are dangerous, and I know that even a short walk can cost a life. I listen for explosions or gunfire, then carefully step out into the yard. Morning outing. 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. 8 a.m. Waiting in line for water. I step outside. Cold wind hits my face, rubble and debris crunch under my feet. A line for water is already forming. Neighbors stand silently with their canisters. Small children play nearby among the ruins, their laughter sounding strange in the silence of destruction. A mother holds her child's hand tightly, constantly looking around to make sure danger isn't close. 9 a.m. Shops and bartering. Store shelves are almost empty. I carefully choose bread and a few cans of food. Every item here is worth its weight in gold. Sometimes neighbors trade what little they have left. Someone offers grain in exchange for water. Someone trades oil for a can of food. These small exchanges have become the rules of survival. 10 a.m. Searching for additional resources. I inspect abandoned buildings, looking for wood, metal, anything that can be used to repair the roof or seal cracks. Every step is cautious. Broken bricks, shattered glass, and old furniture lie underfoot. From afar, explosions and gunfire can be heard, and I press myself against a wall until the sound fades. 11 a.m. Returning home and a short rest. I return home carrying heavy bags of water and food. My heart is racing. My back aches from the weight. I sit on the edge of the sofa, take off my boots, and breathe in the smell of dust and smoke. Silence surrounds me, and I try to relax for a moment before the next stage of the day. When darkness falls over the city, it changes. During the day, the ruins look dead. At night, they feel alive and dangerous. The shadows grow longer, the sounds louder, and fear moves closer. I close the door and push a piece of cloth underneath it, trying to keep the cold and dust out. I turn the light off early. Here, light is an invitation. I sit by the wall, where a photograph once hung. Now there's only a dark rectangle and scars left by shrapnel. I eat slowly, counting every piece of bread, wondering if it will be enough for tomorrow. The water is warm, with a metallic taste, but it keeps me standing. I've learned not to rush. Rushing here always ends badly. A dull rumble comes from outside. Far away, or close, it hardly matters anymore. I freeze, hold my breath, and wait. Seconds stretch into minutes. Then silence returns. A silence so deep it rings in my ears. I allow myself to breathe again. Before sleeping, I check everything one more time. Documents in place. Water hidden. Shoes next to the bed so I don't have to search for them in the dark. Even sleep here isn't rest. It's a short ceasefire. I lie down not where it's comfortable, but where it's safer. Away from the windows. Close to the load-bearing wall. Lying in the darkness, I don't think about the war. I think about small things. The smell of coffee that no longer exists. A street without rubble. A morning that begins not with an explosion, but with silence. Hope here isn't loud, it's quiet and stubborn. It doesn't scream that everything will be fine. It simply says, survive one more day. Nearby, someone coughs. Somewhere, a child cries. Somewhere, someone is praying. The city breathes with me, slowly, carefully. We've all learned the same thing here. To wait. To wait for dawn. To wait for silence. To wait for the moment when fear steps back, even if only for a minute. I close my eyes. Sleep comes in fragments, like a broken film. But I cling to it, because tomorrow there will be morning again. There will be water again. There will be bread again. There will be a choice to go outside or stay in, to be afraid or to live. And as long as I wake up here, it means I'm still alive. And that means this day hasn't taken everything from me yet.